You make countless mistakes in League of Legends. Sorry, that may be hard for you to hear, but hey, the good news is that everyone else ducks up all the time as well. Here at skillcapped, we have isolated the most common laning mistakes that you're likely to make in the bot lane that will immediately lose you your entire lane phase versus a good player. But we don't stop there. We'll also show you exactly how to counter these wildly common mistakes to instantly win lane yourself. Before we dive into it, if you want to know exactly what you are doing wrong in the lane phase, then sign up at skillcapped to use our incredibly popular direct pro coaching service today. It's super simple to use and hyper effective. Hit coaching, check it out, read about our awesome service, select your champion preference or leave it blank, then your role, then your summoner name. Want a specific game reviewed? Select it. If not, a challenger will pick out the one they think is most helpful. Crack open a Diet Coke while a challenger identifies why you can't climb. Oh, challenger responded. Check out your personalized video. Play League, do it again, climb fast. It really is as simple as that, guys. With that all said, let's jump into today's guide. To start off, we're here with Ezreal. He's leashing for his Lee Sin and then enters the lane. He faces a Kai'Sa who skips leashing for her Graves and has already begun pushing. What mistake do you think Ezreal has made already? The answer is leashing for his Lee Sin. Why leash for Lee? He doesn't need one. Stop typing "my jungler will rage," we'll get to that in a moment. Lee doesn't need a leash because he can easily clear his jungle healthily and quickly alone, so Ezreal should go straight to lane. Now, if you leash and your opponent doesn't, it's not usually a big deal, right? I mean, in Platinum and below, Ezreal can just play safe and farm while Kai'Sa just pushes and stays in lane. However, here's the plot twist. Ezreal is facing off against our challenger Phil's superstar Hector, and he's about to show you, Ezreal, that leashing for this Lee Sin immediately cost him the laning phase. Also, you don't even need to be a gold player to punish just like Hector is about to. If you're familiar with our skill capped guides, you may be able to guess exactly how Hector is about to convert his leashless opener into certain victory. What do you think he's going to do? The answer, he's going to cheater recall. A cheater recall is where you slow push the first two waves and then hard push the third wave into the enemy tower and recall. So with a slight minion lead on the first wave, which he maintains on the second wave, then pushing as fast as possible once the third wave arrives, which is a cannon wave. So early into the game, it takes your opponent forever to clear and push the cannon wave, so you return to lane with double the items of your opponent without losing minions while they're stuck in lane. Seems unfair, right? That's why it's called a cheat. Then Hector recalls. If you want more info for how to execute a cheater recall, check out this video guide, link is in the description. Returning to lane with a call in addition to his Doran's Blade, Ezreal has a slow push built to greet Hector. Once he's cleared his wave, he hits tap. Look at the CS difference. Hector is up by 3 less hits despite recalling, shopping, and then walking back to lane. He easily converts his item lead into total lane dominance with an easy kill onto the Senna moments later. Laning with a straight up item advantage by the 4th wave is OP, guys, and we recommend the cheater recall whenever possible. And to further drive home the point that we're trying to make, take a moment to think yourselves. Had both players made it to the lane at the same time, what would happen to the Kai'Sa Thresh? Well, given Senna's range lead, they would shove and harass their opponents to the tower, giving Kai'Sa no room to have agency over this lane. If they land a bunch of harass while doing this, they can stay in lane and continue to bully them. If they fail to do so and everyone's full health, they could just set up a cheater recall themselves. So about these comments that you're patiently waiting to drop. First, let's talk about junglers' mental boom when you don't leash for them. Most jungle champions don't actually need a leash in the early game. Here's a quick list of the junglers who don't need help. If you see them, politely ask if you can just go to lane instead of leashing. But you don't need to memorize this list. Simply ask them if you can skip leashing, tell them you have yet another awesome skill cap trick up your sleeve, and it'll pay off. Usually they're cool with this, but if they start freaking out, which does happen because many low elo junglers literally don't know that they can jungle without a leash, then just help so they don't troll. It's as simple as that. Secondly, anyone can do a cheater recall, not just challenger Hector. It's super easy to execute once you try it a couple of times. The beauty is that your opponents won't know you're doing it until it's too late. There will be nothing they can do, and this works nearly every time in Platinum and below especially. On top of that, we know that most bot laners leash in low elo, so when you get off the hook from leashing your jungler, activate this cheater recall strategy for a free laning phase. Moving on, let's look over to another game. Hector is playing Ashe with Leona against this gold elo Ezreal and his Bard. This next game, Hector tragically has an Echo, who is very weak at clearing camps during his first few levels, giving him no choice but to leash. No cheater recall for you this time, cowboy. Also, we're totally aware that talking about recall timings and pushing waves isn't glamorous. It's no OP Korean one-shot build guide after all. However, 5-heading your wave management and recall timings actually allows you to lane with double the items to your opponent without even landing kills, which is the beauty of this concept. It doesn't rely on kills, which typically rely on your support. It's undeniable ADC has total agency over wave control and recalls, so let's press on and find out how Hector does this once again without having a leash advantage. The early lane starts off with a bang, as any lane with a Leona and Bard is likely to do. The second both sides hit level 2, there's immediate action with Leona trying to set up a kill onto Bard, eventually setting on a 1-for-1 trade between the supports. Let's play this out for a bit, see if you can spot Ezreal's mistake. Okay, what do you think he did wrong? If you answered his WE onto Ashe, you'd be absolutely right. Hector is clearly trying to crash this wave to set up a recall timing with the first blood gold that he just got. Poking him doesn't really matter if he's trying to recall anyway. It's not that casting W and E loses him DPS, but the issue is that afterwards he's mispositioned, so he has to kite away instead of spamming autos onto the wave. Ezreal shouldn't be doing anything but hitting the wave, trying his best to prevent the recall timing from coming through. Let's switch things over to Hector's POV and see what happens next though. Bard begins clearly walking forward to try and cancel his base. Hector is obviously very tilted about his Leona not walking forward to zone Bard. It seems his week off from smurfing made him forget the lessons we always teach you. Back to Ezreal's POV, knowing that his Bard cancelled Ashe's recall, what do you think Ezreal should immediately be looking to do at this moment? Luckily for Ezreal, things actually worked out pretty favorably for him. That previous trade that we said was bad became actually good thanks to Bard's cancel. The correct answer for him here would be to fast push this wave. Here's why. Although Leona came back at full HP and is ready to rumble, engaged supports are fairly useless if their ADCs can't fight with them. The previous chunk has put Hector at pretty low health and mana, and he's not really able to look for any extended all-ins at the moment. Thus, by spam shoving the wave, Ezreal can keep Hector in lane permanently at a health disadvantage, and he'd have no fear of any possible 2v2 engage. He might gain a natural CS lead, forcing Hector to last hit under tower all day, likely to miss some CS. Or force him to take a bad recall timing, resulting in plates and a good recall of his own. Even if Hector immediately recalls, Ezreal gets a clean recall timing himself, the wave bounces back to him, and an Ashe without flash with a pushing wave is very vulnerable to ganks. Either way, Ezreal is massively ahead. What does Ezreal do? He slow pushes instead. Hector recalls, comes back to lane, and is literally handed a freeze that he can easily maintain with his item advantage. Then they fight with their item advantage, and guess what? They win. Also, the wave is in a really bad spot for Ezreal, so he dies. Moving on to our last replay. This time, both players will once again leash for their junglers. But notice that Kai'Sa wasn't actually ready to leash at the 130 mark. Her wasting a bit of time was actually disastrous for her. Hector gets to lane first, gets priority, and well, yeah. We're not joking that this is literally the most important thing that you could be looking to do every game if you can. Once again, he recalls for an item advantage. But this Kai'Sa is a bit different from the rest. She actually answered this cheater recall rather well. She sort of slow pushed the first wave in front of her. This way, on the second wave that crashes, even if Hector has an item advantage, the wave will be too big to prevent her from crashing and getting her own recall. But then, instead of staying in her wave and crashing, she goes in for inconsequential damage onto Jhin. This allows Nautilus to freely walk into her and force her flash and her out of the lane. This trend of going for damage that doesn't matter seems to cost low elo ADCs so many potential advantages because they're not actively thinking about wave control and recall timings. Hector sets up a fairly lengthy freeze and obtains a near level lead over Kai'Sa. Having complete lane control with his experience lead, Hector can just shove waves and apply a ton of pressure. Eventually, mistakes are forced this way and Kai'Sa Yuumi gets caught and dies. This death may not immediately be Kai'Sa's fault, but when you concede all lane control and let your opponents do whatever they want, your support is bound to get themselves killed eventually, even if they're Yuumi. Alright everyone, that's going to be it for today's guide. If you want to see way more guides just like this and try out our brand new Direct Pro coaching tool, then don't forget to check out Skillcapped and start your climb today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.